Hi, Rocky Mountain students, and welcome to this week's video check-in. I'm coming to you from the very humid location of Indianapolis, Indiana, which is why I look the way I look, and that it's 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I've been home from a busy working day and just got done with some yard work. So that's about as real as that will get. But I did wanted to, I still wanted to make sure I checked in with you all to discuss some underpinning ideas from this week as we discuss our exam and change management. You've been aware of this assignment for some time now, but as you get around to perhaps your reflection or executing the assignment itself and doing the interview or being interviewed, some things that I want you to all kind of digest and let kind of settle in your minds and thoughts about change management is first, I took a 16-week course on change management and the concept behind the formal idea and structure of what that really means. Because for some people, many people in leadership roles have never even heard the term change management before. And that's okay. That just means that this bit of content, even for a leader you might be interviewing or being interviewed from, if you're in the leadership role, this is a new concept and a new way of thinking of how to manage change. Change is happening all the time. Change is either categorized as planned change or unplanned change, evolutionary or revolutionary. What is really neat, if we look at this whole pandemic from a glasses half full standpoint, is we are experiencing some very revolutionary, paradigm shifting, unplanned change in healthcare. Many things are out of our control right now. Many things we're encountering, policies that we didn't even know could exist are being developed. And although sometimes policy is seen as very transactional in the process of making or executing, it can be very transformational to the lives of our patients. So I think it's a very timely thing to be examining and having a more structured conversation around what change management is. Peter Drucker is known as the probably the most innovative and the researcher who has kind of the cornerstone of the topic in change management and leadership. He developed one of the first, I would say, streamlined frameworks in regards to change management, as far as establishing a sense of urgency, building a guiding coalition, celebrating small victories. And even though there is no one size fits all for change management in the organizational sense, there is still something to be said about everyone being on the same page and the process being very transparent, because I think that's where a lot of followers get lost because they lack maybe the trust of the leader, or they've been led down this path before and nothing took shape, or what took shape was not was an intention what was originally laid out or rolled out to be planned. So it is a very time consuming long process. Good things take time. In a leadership role or as a follower, just wanting that instant gratification because something's been so terrible for a long time, or you've been led poorly for such a long time and you're ready for real change. But even the most convincing leaders and some of the best leaders, it still takes time for good change to take place. But when we're examining change management from a more theoretical lens, there are a couple frameworks out there that can help us, such as Kurt Lewin, unfreeze, change, and refreeze. In the most layman sense, some people really criticize that theory because it's almost oversimplified. Like, change is not that simple, and you're dealing with humans, and humans are very complex creatures. You're dealing with their pre-established belief systems and morals and what's driven them and every lived experience that's brought to them to this point. For those of you in education, you experience change all the time, and it's frustrating change many of the times from what my students have told me in previous semesters. And this probably hits very close and home to you as far as seeing an administration roll out change, because all of a sudden, oh, this is the new policy, this is what we're doing now, no one told me this. That's how a lot of followers feel. On the other side of that, we have clinicians who are either in private practice or have their own clinic, and they need to establish new policies. And who's been involved in that conversation? Who's been brought forward and identified as a stakeholder? We haven't formally discussed stakeholders, or you will in a couple of weeks, but have you even identified who those people are and how it impacts their lives and how it impacts the way they think, feel, and perceive the situation to be playing out? Do they feel like they're just a puppet, or do they actually feel like a real cog in this whole machine? And is the change very transactional? Like, this is what I said it is, so this is how it is now. Don't get me wrong, in some senses that's absolutely appropriate. But when we're talking about a time like we're in now with COVID and a pandemic and change, like we're never going to be the same as we once were pre-COVID. These things, and that's a very specific example, but my overall point is that change that you make, even the smallest ripple, can create a pretty big current. So it's important that we're considering change management in a more structured sense versus organized chaos, or just chaos in general, because that's how oftentimes change feels. So that's why this week you're interviewing a change leader, someone who can make decisions in your organization and someone who can lead those organizations. Oftentimes in higher education, we talk about change management and just swap out the term for strategic planning. That's all that is. But even then, sometimes strategic planning isn't all that well executed. But I believe it really falls into the rationale that many people in leadership roles just don't have the formal exposure to change management and the underpinnings of what that means. So I think you're all very fortunate to have a little bit of exposure to this, a little bit of exposure. I'm not expecting you to walk away experts, but just to know the term, be familiar with theories, and understand its greater impact is a step in the right direction. So I look forward to reading your interviews this week, and please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I'll post a reminder, but we will have office hours on Wednesday. See you then if you decide to stop by. Otherwise, have a great week.